Hello and welcome to Jeff Shrimpton's One Giant Leap podcast. I've been really excited about the person I'm interviewing today because I've been able to see his journey right from the beginning. And it's Daniel Disney from the Daily Sales and author of the £1,000,000 LinkedIn Message. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me on. We were just saying, I think you're one of very few people who kind of knew me before all of this and kind of got to really see the journey, from its entirety. So I'm excited to dig into the story and hopefully some LinkedIn tips today as well.
Yeah, great. And it's really interesting. I think sometimes when we see people at the start of the journey, maybe if you see a movie star in like their first movie and you like their first movie and then they become a big Hollywood star, you feel that kind of connection to them, don't you, over time? And I felt the same with you because you came to one of my seminars. It was probably because I started coaching nearly 5 years ago, so it was probably four to 4.5 years ago. And I remember at the time, I think you had a job, you were employed, and your boss had sent you. I think your boss was supposed to come but didn't bother. And I remember from the day I set a challenge at the start to see who's going to make the best notes is going to win a book. And you won the book, and your notes were
with me still. It's a proud place on my bookshelf.
There you go.
I remember it vividly. So we had just my boss had just bought a new franchise for a big IT training company, first franchise in the UK, and obviously we were exploring lots of different ways to grow the business. And one of the things that he had come across were your seminars. Now he was insanely busy, so kindly asked me to come in his place. And I loved it. I've always been a note-taking person, but I must have done pages of notes, and
I remember
there were colors and highlighters and everything, but I learned so much, and obviously very excited to win a copy of the book. And I know you had a selection of them, and I obviously went straight for the sales one out of all of the different topics. But it was a great session, and it was kind of a key point, I think, in my life, because that was really where the transition was starting, where the sort of seeds were starting to grow, and I was using LinkedIn a lot more, and it couldn't have been long before the daily sales was started. The idea kind of happened. So it was a really interesting time, and it's great to be able to talk to you today, and I guess revisit and maybe relive that journey a little bit.
Yeah, brilliant. Because I remember you took pages and pages of notes, and they were incredibly neat. They were all in different colors. You'd really taken the effort. And when I was reflecting on that, I was thinking, that's, if someone takes great notes, that's a reflection on the student, not the teacher. I remember being at a seminar, and I sat and the speaker, I thought the speaker was rubbish. My page looked like that. It was empty. And the person next to me was taking loads of notes. And I turned to this person, I said, speaker's a bit rubbish. And he went, I know. I went, well, why are you taking so many notes? I'm writing down all the things that I'm never going to do when I get on stage. And I went, I'm missing a lesson.
That's a funny story, but a really good point.
Isn't it? It's a great one. Like, blokes on stage absolutely turning the audience against him, offering no content, the NLP sale thing with the hands up and the this, that, and say yes and all this kind of stuff, no content, and everyone's going, oh God, give me strength. And the person sat next to me, massive growth mindset, was going, great, he's messed that up. Oh, I've done that once before, I'll make sure I don't do that, because now I can feel it.
It's the best way to learn, either learn from your own mistakes or learn from other people's mistakes. I've seen so many people speak, and that's helped me in many ways, because this is not easy getting on stage and speaking. A lot of people do it, and a lot of people get it wrong, unfortunately. And so I think, kudos to that person for taking notes. I'm sure they took those skills and were able to.
They learned more than I did, because they had a more open mind, and that's definitely where I saw you. I was really surprised, because when I knew you were coming and you were an employee, they're not the sort of person that would come to one of my seminars normally. But actually, your growth mindset at that point, absolutely. I can't remember any of the other people in the audience that came, but I remember that you really impacted on me in that way. And then it was really quite interesting, because not long after that, and then you kind of sprung up on LinkedIn doing this daily sales thing. And I remember probably slightly patronizingly going, "Oh, there you go. That's nice, Daniel. I'm sure that, let's hope that works out for you." And then the next thing I know, I blink and you've got like hundreds of thousands of followers, and you're speaking all over the world and stuff. And, you know, from my point of view, I'm like, bloody hell, where did that come from? Of course, it looks incredibly easy. I'm sure it wasn't. I'd love you to hear before we, because I really want to get some great tips from the, you know, from your area of expertise. But equally important is the journey, I think. And let me ask you a question first: is what was the decision? Because you had a job and you were working. At some point, there was a decision. What was that? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I've always had that entrepreneurial fire burning within me. I've started so many mini businesses ever since I was a kid. So I've always wanted to do it, but I've never known what to do or, you know, how to do it in essence. So sales was what I ended up working in as a career, first job I ever had, what I've worked in my entire working life. But when you can sell something, that's great, but you need something to sell. And I didn't have a trade or a skill that I could necessarily go out there and sell. So I always struggled with the whole business thing. Now, when I came to your seminar, I just joined as a sales manager for this sort of new startup franchise training company here in the south of the UK. And, you know, I was as hungry as I've ever been in my entire career. And you know, we did some great things while I was there. But at that time, I just started to use LinkedIn, and I'd already been using it for a couple of years to sell. But what I started to do was essentially find my own voice, and I started writing my own content and writing my own articles. And it was sort of a trickling process, slow at the start, but I enjoyed it, and people responded to it. Only a few at the start. Maybe I got 3 likes on a post or 5 likes, but I'd never had that before. Hey, it's better than nothing. For someone who's never put content out, you know, people responded, and that was nice. And then after doing that for a few months and getting a bit of a flavor for the content I was enjoying creating around sales and selling, one of the things I noticed was that there was all this content on LinkedIn, but it was all scattered everywhere. And I just started playing around with doing some memes focused on sales because I hadn't really seen any before. And I thought, you know what? I love memes. These are hilarious. What if I can make some relevant to salespeople and some of the painful processes that we have to go through? And the engagement they got were insane. You know, where I might get 10 likes on a post, these were getting hundreds. And clearly there was an appetite. So one evening, sort of point whilst I was at the company I was the franchise, I was sat on the sofa at home and thought, right, I'm going to create a brand, a name, a place that salespeople can go, a page they can follow, and every day they're going to get great content focused on sales, entertaining, motivating, educating, that kind of stuff. And came up with the name of the Daily Sales, downloaded a free logo app on my phone to create the logo is the same as it was back then, set up the social channels on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, went and created a free website for it just as to make sure I had a web sort of hub as such, and then just started creating content and putting out posts every single day. And, you know, the fast growth of the audience happened because it was the right content, the right time, consistently, and it was pure value. So I never asked for anything. There was no adverts, there was no promotions. It was purely just entertaining, motivating, inspiring content for salespeople every day. So the audience grew quickly, and we gained, I think it was 100,000 followers in the first year. But all that time, it was never a business in my head. It was just a hobby.
Yeah.
I loved selling. I love sales. I'm a nerdy salesperson. I enjoy what I do. And it's the huge collection of sales books behind me. So this was all fun. But when it got to 100,000, there was a few people I knew sort of said, you need to monetize that. You know, there's a business there. Yeah. But the challenge was you can't charge your audience. Content is free on social media. No one's going to pay to see content because they can get it for free elsewhere. So then it came the sort of learning process of, okay, I have this big audience of salespeople. Who can that benefit? Okay, all the companies that are selling to salespeople, sales teams, the sales tools, software, CRMs, sales training, etc. There's an audience of their target customer. I can help them reach it. I need to find a good way to do it. Pure advertising is probably going to scare my audience away. And it was a process. It took me a good 2 years to get it right. But after, it was 2.5 years, 3 years of building it up, it got to the point where I was able to then leave full-time work and take it on full-time. And just, I won't go, the story probably does drag on a little bit, but at that point, someone that I knew that I'd worked with before sent me a message saying, "Oh, Dan, you're doing really good on LinkedIn. Can you come and train my sales team on how to get more from LinkedIn?" I was like, okay, I've never really trained, I've trained my sales team how to use it and, trained them how to sell, but I've never created a course or anything like that, and created this course for the sales team. It was good. It was successful. They got good results from it. So then that was the birth of the second part of the business, which was, I guess, brand Dan Disney, becoming a trainer and speaker in the sort of LinkedIn social selling world. And that's where that business then started. And yeah, here I am about 5 years, I guess, in total into this, and successful sort of digital business going here. And, I had my first book out last year, speak all around the world and train sales teams, some huge companies, small companies. And more importantly, I love what I do. I get to do what I love. I get to go out there and help people in lots of different ways in the industry that, as nerdy as it is, I truly like.
Yeah, great. And like Leonardo DiCaprio says in Titanic, and here I am talking to you fine people.
Exactly that.
Story. Great. So let's move on to that then. Before we I know you've got probably armfuls of tips and useful things for the listeners to have, but before we get into like specific doing stuff, if you remember from our seminar, I talk about B times do equals have. And I had someone just sat in my office just here the other day, and nothing major, but he was talking about, selling his business, and I could tell there was some scarcity there, and little kind of flags up of not being too salesy, and you start to get that kind of negative connotation to sales. And I think that's something we need to get through first, isn't it?
Massively. I literally did a post about this on LinkedIn yesterday, where the focus of the post was around how a lot of people judge salespeople on the minority of them that are bad. And unfortunately, through history, through negative stereotyping, films, TV, and the bad salespeople that do exist, the majority of people are now scared of salespeople. And even salespeople feel bad for being a salesperson. But actually, when you break it down, when you get good, professional, ethical salespeople, what they're doing is a very amazing thing. They help people significantly. They save people lots of money. They improve their systems. They provide sources, solutions, big ROIs. Salespeople help when it's done right. And, I'm proud to sell. I know everyone I serve through what I do benefits. I make sure I find the right people. I qualify them first, listen to their needs, cater my solutions, and make sure I deliver a result for them that they are satisfied with. So I'm proud to sell. And when I talk to salespeople, especially people that are new into sales, that's kind of the core message that I try and pass on, is that don't feel bad that you're selling. Feel proud that you're helping. Do it right. Make that effort. I think I kind of refer to it as autopilot. A lot of salespeople, or people in general, go onto autopilot when they're told to sell. And you see this, we're thinking about films and Leonardo DiCaprio, if we think of Wolf of Wall Street, the wonderful sell me this pen example. If you go up to anyone and say, sell me this pen, autopilot tricks in and they'll be like, okay, this is the most amazing pen in the world. It writes in every single color. It shoots lasers. It prints money. It makes wishes come true. They'll tell you everything they think you want to hear to, convince you to buy the pen. Now, if you went to that person and said, do you know what? I'm having a bit of trouble with this pen and I'm thinking of getting a new pen. What do you think? They're probably going to ask you questions. Okay, well, what are you using for at the moment? What problems are you actually having with it? Have you looked at any options that are out there? And before you know it, that's professional selling. Whereas what the other sort of road is the type of selling that people don't like, the type of selling that scares people away. And it's that whole sell versus help mentality that can really transform the way we do sell.
I think lots of people just make the connection between of selling to bad selling, essentially, don't they? We're talking of films. Have you seen Fargo, the film?
Yes.
There's the scene. Have you seen the scene right at the start where you introduce William H. Macy's character, and he's
Yeah.
trying to sell. I've cut that out, and I've used that in sales training so often. And he's trying to sell the True Coat onto this car, and he's got this lovely family in front of him. And he does the old car salesman thing where he goes, "I'll go and speak to my boss," and he goes at the back and he says, "Oh, you know, did you see the game yesterday?" and all this kind of thing. And he comes back and goes, "I can't believe it. He's going to give you 10% off." And the guy's going, "You fucking liar." And that's just a brilliant example of exactly what we don't want to be. But I think more importantly, it's we can see that we don't want to be that. That's obvious. But I think people think that even by asking for the sale or kind of moving forward and progressing, that they're so terrified of being that they back so far off, and you know they leave doors wide open, like with, you know, well, if you've got any questions, let me know. You know, fending people off. I used to do a lot of work in exhibitions. I used to train people on exhibition stands, and you'd see people literally fending people off with brochures. They come up, they're interested, and they go, "Here's a brochure, bye," because I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to sell to you. So I'm just using a brochure to make you go away.
No, the exhibition is a great example. I obviously speak at a lot of events, and I do walk around, and I'm always fascinated because most salespeople, they hide behind their stands. They stay in their little square. They'll never venture out, usually quite against the wall. And, you know, most of them are avoiding eye contact. They're so scared to sell. And actually, there was one company I saw, I think it was a year ago, and there was this one person. It was a big stand. There must have been about 15 salespeople on the stand. Most of them were on it. This one person did not spend a single second on the stand. The whole time they were out the stand and around. Yeah. They were engaging. They were so fun and happy and positive. At no point did it ever look or feel like they were selling to people. They were just talking, having conversations, qualifying. And if someone was, you know, a potential customer and they identified it, they would progress it and turn it into something. But it's a funny thing. A lot of people are scared and intimidated to sell. And that's why mindset comes into it. I've been reading a book recently called find it down here, Selling Boldly by Alex Goldfein.
Okay.
Brilliant author. And it's all about positive psychology and positive mindset in selling. It's being confident and proud to sell. Fear holds so many salespeople and business people back from, you know, achieving the great things they could achieve.
So what's your tip for someone? I suppose I think the first thing is awareness. Mm-hmm. When you come out of the matrix, you go, you know, if you spot it, you got it in a lot of cases, because a lot of people just don't know it's there. They've got that negative connotation. So, and that's why, you know, I'm sure you do as much as I do as coaches. We can then go, we can hold the mirror up and say, I'm sensing some negativity around your thoughts around selling here. Once we've got to that place, then what do we do?
So then for me, it's all about understanding and believing in your product or service. You need to truly believe in how it helps. A lot of companies focus their training on features and benefits. So they focus their training for their salespeople on what the product does, not necessarily what problems it's going to solve for your customers. And that's where the focus needs to be. You need to genuinely believe and understand how your product's going to help someone, what it's going to help them achieve. It all needs to be about them. It's not about your product. It doesn't matter how fancy your pen could be, what features and benefits it has. It's what is that pen going to do for that person? What type of person is going to benefit from this pen? Once you've got that confidence and belief, you already start to shed a lot of those negative fears, because you're going out not to sell some features and benefits, but to find the right people that you can help with that product. There's understanding how it helps. Focus on the solution, not the product.
And I think at that point, people might realize that if they're not committed to the product, they should go find a product that they are committed to.
That's a really good point. A lot of salespeople, unfortunately, you know, and I get it, it's not easy getting a job. A lot of salespeople get a job for getting a job. I don't think there are many salespeople that interview the company as much as the company's interviewing them. And that's a really, really valid point. You should try and find products, services, or industries that either you have an interest in or an understanding in. There has to be something there. Whilst we kind of have this illusion that if you can sell, you could sell anything and everything. It is a lot easier to sell something that you either are, you know, knowledgeable about or interested in. Otherwise, it becomes a lot harder. Otherwise, you are selling a product because you don't know the industry. You're not interested in the industry. You're not really interested in your customers, and it becomes a lot more difficult to sell.
Mm. Do you know, I've just thought of a thing while we were talking there. A lot of my audience are the business owner, and they're selling the business, which essentially is themselves. And sometimes they might doubt themselves, and they might doubt how good they are, because that's natural as human beings. So it's important, I think, not to confuse normal self-doubt with not believing in the product.
That's a really good point, actually. I mean, we all, and a lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome. I have moments of it where a lot of people will look at me and put me on a podium as such, and I question it sometimes. Do I deserve to be here? Do I really have the knowledge to help? And there's it was Alex Goldfein again. He's kind of my favorite author at the moment, but he makes this great point that when you have those sort of feelings and those self-doubts, go back and look at your customer testimonials, look at the people that you've helped, the problems you've solved, and that kind of helps heal that wound as such, kind of changes that insecurity and turns it into a bit of a reminder that, okay, yes, do you know what? I remember they loved it, they were happy, this was the result they achieved, and that boosts you back up. It's quite natural. I think a lot of people go through it at some point, if not a lot. And it's good. I guess that's the medicine that you kind of always want to have at hand. Same as motivation. We know if we're having a tough day, getting the jobs done that we need to get done, if you're self-aware of those things, you know what's going to motivate you. Maybe it's a 5-minute walk around outside. Maybe it's a drink of coffee or a drink of water, listening to some music. The same thing. If you're having some doubts or you're worried about your worth and value, look back at the customers you have served, look at the people that you've helped, and just get that reminder that, actually, yeah, you do a good job. I have helped a lot of people. That pride then starts to overtake.
That'll lead us nicely on, I think, because that can only be once you start then go, right, I am going to do some selling. Even though I've got some bits of imposter syndrome, it's all crap in my head, but I'm going to move forward. Then we're going to go into a sales situation, and what of course happens in a sales situation is rejection. And that's then a real challenge there. And for example, I every now and then I stick a dart in the thing, point a pin at it. I get one of my LinkedIn connections. I give him a ring, and I go, hey, we're connected. No agenda. I just thought I'd give you a ring just because we're connected, and just be good to get to know who I'm connected to. I spoke to this guy the other day, and he went, okay, what do you do? I went, well, I'm a coach. He goes, I don't want it. I said, well, okay, well, I wasn't selling it. I'm just phoning you up. He goes, I said, you know what? I'll just move on, shall I? Yeah. And I know a couple of years ago, that would have been my last sales call of the day. But actually, I've just realized, you know what? He didn't want to have a chat. That's fine. I'm all right with that. But fear of rejection is something that either it wounds us or it's even more subtle. It just, if I'll just finish doing this filing of my accounts and then I'll go and do my sales calls or my LinkedIn messages and stuff like that. And then they just never happen and never happen. So what's your advice on that?
There's a few things. One, there's a famous Brian Tracy quote about eating your frog first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And I think that applies very great to cold calling or any sort of confronting task that you're kind of scared of or intimidated of. Get it done first, and then in theory it's not going to get any worse than that. I cut my teeth in sales, door knocking and cold calling, so I've pretty much faced the worst rejection that can come. I've had doors slammed in my face. I've had people shout and swear at me just for knocking on their door. Rejection's not nice. I think the key is to not be emotionally attached to it. Whenever you approach a customer, if you're emotionally attached, it's going to wound you. But if you're going to them thinking, I'm going to try and help this person, if I can't help them, that's fine, on to the next one. Then it doesn't matter if they reject you, because they're not rejecting you, they're just rejecting the opportunity you're presenting to them. Maybe that person you spoke to, Jeff, probably did need coaching, but they put the wall up, they're going to miss out. And maybe there's other ways you might try them later down the line. But either way, it's not personal. You move on.
I think even as long as you've got that screamer, someone who shouted at you or told you to foxtrot Oscar, as they say, even if they did, you know what? I think how it helps me as well is to go, is to have some empathy.
Yes.
Maybe that person's going through a messy divorce right now. Maybe their business is on the rocks and they're just not in the right place, and they're just frustrated and angry, and how self-centered am I, making it about me? That poor old me. They will bugger off, leave me alone. Well, do you know what? The house might be on fire right now. They've got more important things to do. And like you say, if you disassociate it from the personal rejection, it's not personal rejection. It's just they just don't want to talk about it now. Much easier, isn't it?
Well, it does raise a good point. I'm the same, and I usually do this in my talks. But if I'm out somewhere and I'm walking past a salesperson and I see them connect eyes with me and they start approaching me, I'll probably walk the other direction, because no one wants to be sold to. No one wants to be pressured into buying something. So when someone comes across as trying to sell something, we instantly put these walls up, and it is natural. And empathy was the perfect way to put it. You've got to appreciate why that's happening. That's why it's so important for salespeople, business owners, whatever it may be creative and original in their approach, and to be authentic and genuine. If you're going out there again with an agenda, and obviously you weren't, Jeff, you were just trying to talk, and that's the best way to go about it, but it still raised some flags to that person. And I think this was one of the things that really attracted me to LinkedIn and social selling, because it was a very different way of selling. Instead of me pitching everyone, picking up the phone, making hundreds of cold calls, or going from door to door, from building to building, I was able to kind of do it in a different way. You almost mix sales and marketing together, where you build this personal brand, you're putting out content of value, you show people what you do and what you offer, but you give them so much insight, knowledge, tips, etc. through your content. And then when you do approach them, they're usually a lot warmer to talk to you, because they know you, they've taken value from you through your content, or they come to you, and that's even better, because they come to you when they're ready to buy, and then it becomes a much easier process. So for me, it was finding a sort of a new, different way to sell that made it a little bit easier. Instead of those traditional sales approaches, there are now, and it's only evolved since I started using it, because not only do we have loads of social media networks, but we have things like video now, and all these things are sort of transforming the way we sell, where instead of picking up the phone and having a phone conversation, we can have a video conversation, and I can actually talk to you and you can see me, and all these things are making selling a little bit better and less selling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a kind of some thoughts going on. I made a video the other day about marketing versus prospecting. In that lots of businesses, they want to set up marketing, and it's almost, some ways I think they're being lazy, in that they just want to kind of pay someone to do some stuff, and then loads of people come on their hands and knees begging to do business with you, and that's the dream that sometimes marketers sell them. Yeah. But most of my clients, if it's appropriate, they're now prospecting. And I work a lot in construction, for example. And construction's great because you don't have to be fluffy. You don't have to have a brand voice particularly. You just have to find someone who's got a project that needs the thing that you need, and you go, all right, mate, can I put a price in for that? And you get a conversation going, and it's really, really easy. But regular and consistent prospecting is incredibly powerful, isn't it?
It really is. And I teach social selling, and there is always this big debate between social selling and social marketing, as is with sales and marketing. And there is a lot you do on social media to create inbound opportunities, which is great. As we say, done right, it's great to get stuff coming in. But I have always been and always will be a hunter salesperson. So I don't want to just put some content out, sit back and wait for people to come to me. I want to go out and create those conversations. And there are so many ways through social media and obviously other tools that you can do that. Obviously, my thing is helping salespeople learn how to use LinkedIn as a tool to do outbound prospecting. So how do you send? I mean, that was the reason I wrote the book, The £1 Million LinkedIn Message, was how can salespeople send better prospecting messages via LinkedIn? Because most of the messages I get in my inbox are terribly written sales pitches that are literally just copy, paste, send to hundreds of people. They're touch at the wall to see what kind of sticks, and they don't work. So this was all about how can you send better written messages that actually do open opportunities. And there are lots of other ways on LinkedIn that you can go out there and start those conversations. But the beauty of social selling done right is you do both. So you do the marketing type stuff by building a personal brand, sharing content. It doesn't take long to do that. So you do generate inbound. Then you're also out there hunting and creating opportunities and creating those outbound prospecting sort of opportunities as well. What I will say, the biggest message and tip I can give, you know, we live in a time now where there's never been more tools before for salespeople or businesses to use to find customers. You know, back in, 15 odd years ago, you would have had the phone and email and kind of face to face. That was it. Maybe the newspaper if it was applicable. Whereas now you've got social media, you've got text, you've got video. You know, there are all these new tools that you can leverage in so many ways. I mean, I had a letter come through from an accounting company, a letter, bearing in mind, I think it's the only prospecting letter I've ever received in pretty much my life. And it just had a compliment slip with a pound coin sellotape to it. And it just said, "Hey, Dan, here's £1. I'd love to help you save more from the tax man. Kind regards, the accountant."
Got your attention.
Got my attention, instantly stood out. They could have picked up the phone. I probably wouldn't have answered. They probably could have sent me an email, but they would have had to get my email address and it probably would have gone into the junk folder. You know, there's all these different things. And it's, as we kind of said before, it's about being creative, being original, finding different ways to start conversations.
Yeah. A friend of mine used to have a logistic business that he just sold. And he wanted to bring on board a company that were doing adult toys and products.
Right.
And to get their attention, he went and bought the biggest dildo he could find and had it engraved with, "Are you being screwed by your logistics supplier? If so, get in touch with us." And I feel sorry for the person who had to take it down to the engravers, having engraved. But they send it off there, and you imagine, well, when that turns up, you're going to get a conversation, aren't you?
You really are. Hopefully a good one. But that, yeah, it's creative, it's relevant. And one of the biggest tips from that example is the importance of personalization. It's the importance of doing your homework on that individual prospect. A lot of people, and I get this all the time when I teach or speak, people will say, "Okay, how can we scale it? What tools can we use to do it en masse?" And that's what every company seems to want to do, is what shortcuts can I take so that I don't have to spend time or effort doing it. And it's a tough balance. I get it. We want volume, but quality is so important. And actually taking that individual approach of, okay, this company sells adult things, so I'm going to make sure I find a creative way for them, instead of just sending them the template that I send every other different type of company that I prospect, would have made a huge difference.
The phrase I love is an inch wide and a mile deep, rather than a mile wide and an inch deep. It's great if you're really kind of targeting in that way. So I want to come back to the content side of things, because I know lots of people get caught up with that, and I'd love to take your take on it. But just staying with prospecting for a bit longer. So if somebody's thinking about prospecting on LinkedIn, just give us a couple of minutes of your top tips of what they should do.
Okay. Number one, and this is applicable for everything on LinkedIn, have a good profile. Because whatever you do, whether it's prospecting, content, personal brand, it's going to draw people to your profile. To have a good profile first, and just some top tips on that. Have a good background image behind your photo. So something that's got company logo, maybe a picture of the product, or a few words that tells people what it is you do. Have a good profile photo, a plain background, ideally, shoulders and above, looking at the camera, nice professional headshot. If you don't have or can't take a photo against a plain background, go onto fiverr.com, pay a couple of quid and someone will cut it out for you, and you can just put it against a plain background. Either way, you then stand out from the picture and people aren't focused on whatever's behind you.
So you're saying I shouldn't put that picture of me with my mates on my 8th pint of lager?
I mean, you're not alone. A lot of people have pictures as their profile photos. It's probably not going to win you much business. It scares me how many people I train that have photos like that.
Yeah.
It comes from a couple of areas. One, we often use social media personally, so we use Facebook and Instagram, and those photos that are acceptable. And B, not many people have a professional headshot. So what do? You go back and find the smartest looking picture you have, whether it was a wedding or a night out, and away it goes. But we live in a time most people have really good cameras on their phones, and if you're at home, most people have a plain wall, or if not, take it against a different wall, cut your picture out.
Smile.
And smile. Gosh, smile does a lot of things. Final bit is your summary. You've got a summary section. Most people write it as like a personal statement on a CV. Unless you're trying to get a job that's not relevant, you want to make it customer focused, stretch it out. There's a lot of room there. Really focus on who you help, how you help them, what you help them achieve, how you've helped similar companies, and how they can get in touch with you. Focus it on your customer.
That's the mindset shift, isn't it, for lots of people? Is in the about, you don't talk about you.
Yeah.
Don't talk about you at all, really. And I got that massive mindset shift from reading Building Your Story Brand by Donald Miller. Have you read that? And basically, he talks about, it's a great book. I know you'll love it, actually. He talks about how you're not the hero of the story. They are. You're the guide. So you're not Daniel-san, you're Mr. Miyagi. So then he talks about positioning. The hero is the prospect, is the person, your customer. Then he talks about what is their problem, and then position you as a guide to help them get past that problem. That's it, kind of in a nutshell. But most people put themselves, as the hero of the story, and it's kind of, then they feel uncomfortable because they're bragging, and then they're like, and they don't know what to do, they don't know what to say, and it just gets a bit awkward, doesn't it?
Yeah, my mentality's always been live to serve. So for me, it's always been that the customer's the hero of the story, and really good mindset shift, and should be seen through your profile. Your profile's about them, not about you. You're just going to show them how you can help them. Other top tips when it comes to prospecting, then, when you're using messaging, just be conversational, be light. Don't jump in with a terribly written sales pitch. Don't be awkward. Just find opportunities to start a good conversation. It's like a physical networking event. You go to a physical networking event, you've got all these people, you have to go up and start a conversation. You will try and find common things that you can talk about, or observations that you can reference, and then you will open up that door as such. It's no different on social. Look for content they've shared, look for news about their company, find something relevant to them that you can then start the conversation with, and then talk to them. Have a conversation, and if it starts going down that pathway, then you can start to drop in qualifying questions, find out a bit more relevant information. If it's all going in the right direction, you should have earned the opportunity then to present yourself or your product or service as a potential solution for them. But just keep it light and conversational. One of the best ways LinkedIn is used is to start conversations that then can be progressed to a phone call, to a video call, to a face-to-face meeting when it's easier to do so, all those sort of things, or an email address. A lot of people just get too chatty on LinkedIn as well, and you want to kind of progress it, or otherwise you get friend zoned and you're just going to end up as someone they chat to and not a customer. But keep it light. And
it's that conversation. I think I need to get better at that. I've just, because I knew that I shouldn't be selling to people, so I was okay, I want to connect with people, so I want to give them value, so maybe I'll invite them to a webinar or a seminar and things like that. But then I realized quite recently, do you know what? I'm still only broadcasting to these people. I'm not conversing with them. I'm not engaging with them, and I need to get better at that. So what tips have you got for me for really getting a, I'm confident my values are in the right place, because not everybody becomes a customer, not everybody, but they get value from it and they might help them, and that's brilliant. I absolutely love that. That's in line with my vision. But sometimes, I just want to broadcast and I'm not conversing. So what advice are you going to give me?
Yeah, so be creative. There are lots of different ways you can converse through LinkedIn. If it's via messaging, you can send written messages, audio messages, and video messages. And it's often a lot easier. I mean, it's easiest to converse through video, and especially someone like you, Jeff, that's comfortable in front of a camera. But anyone, and I imagine some of the people listening to this might not be comfortable in front of the camera, or might not be used to recording video, whether it's a message or even a video bit of content to share. Practice. I certainly was not born comfortable in front of the camera. When I first started recording videos, I hated it. I mean, I still don't really like listening back to myself through a video. And I used to record videos on my phone in my car so that no one else could hear me or see me. And that was how I started. But practice makes perfect. Everything is usually uncomfortable when you start it. The first cold call I made was horrible. First face-to-face meeting I had was horrible. It's the same with video. So my biggest tip would be practice. You don't have to share it, but just get comfortable in front of a camera, because nothing's going to be easier than actually essentially being able to see someone or look at someone and talk to them. And then just be creative. There's lots of ways in content that you can be creative in how you give value. And it's just understanding your customers enough to be able to know what they're going to benefit from.
Great. Yeah. Do you know, I've experimented a little bit with video, but I'm definitely going to do some more of that because I'm in no way good at video. I don't feel like I am. But I am. I think I've got to a place where I know when I listen back to my podcast, I think, oh, stuttering buffoon. But do you know what? I don't care anymore. That's all you get. That's as good as it's going to get. I'll improve over time. But I'm okay being vulnerable like that. So I'm gonna send it out in whatever form it is. I don't edit stuff anymore because I'm too impatient apart from anything. I've managed to separate myself from the ego of that. So I think the next step is to continually reach out personally. So I'm definitely going to make a note to do that in the future. So
Yeah,
maybe some people listening to this may well have gone, yeah, we've had some spam off you, Jeff, or something in the past when I just want to reach out and help as many people. And I always think that there's a culture on LinkedIn that's quite spiky in that people go, oh, I got a message the other day and it was from someone and it was rubbish. And I think, well, yes, it was. And maybe they've only just come on LinkedIn, but like they're just trying to make some money. Like I'm always polite to people. I either ignore them or I give them a response or something. There's no point in getting annoyed about it, and I have got empathy because I'm way away from perfect. So
no one is perfect. We all have to start somewhere, and yeah, I mean it's a social media network, so people do like to make noise, whether it's good or bad. And you know, I wouldn't say that is trolling, but it's going down that trolling path. And my message with anyone who finds themselves doing that is just remember your prospects will see it, your customers will see it, your colleagues will see it, your leaders will see it. You know, it's not like Facebook where only your friends and family are going to see it. More important people will. LinkedIn is a professional network. So I would just, doesn't mean you can't disagree with someone or have a debate, but keep it positive and polite because it's a professional platform.
Because it's interesting that the negative posts quite often they get a lot of likes and shares and comments and stuff. People probably feel like they're being really popular, but it's a really good point that your next prospect might look at that and go, no, I don't think so. I think it's important to be kind, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And you know, I have had a lot of trolling comments. I got it a lot when I started out because similar to you, Jeff, all I was trying to do was just give value. I was just trying to write content that was, you know, valuable. And obviously the more your audience grows, the more positive engagement you get, the more people start to then either resent it or I don't know, whatever motivates them, they start to become negative towards it. And my approach has always been kill them with kindness, just be kind and polite and, you know, answer any queries that they might have. But it's never easy. So hence why I try to teach people now, if you find yourself feeling it, and I get it, there are sometimes I will read a post and you read it and you think, oh, what a load of baloney. What is this person trying to do? And you just have to remind yourself that it's a public platform, you know. And
it's just a person just trying to make some money so they can go on holiday. give it a bit of latitude.
That's it, exactly.
So we talked about prospecting and there's some great stuff. I've got some notes of how I'm going to improve mine. Thank you, Daniel. So I have a bit of a problem with content marketing because I see so many people burning cash doing it. Like, there's so many like social media people out there that go, oh, I'll do your post for you and all this kind of thing. And people burn cash and they don't get good results. And I more often than not, I'll say just get in the inbox and start prospecting rather than marketing. But I know you've got great success with content marketing. I know my wife has as well. I mean, she started posting, and I think this is the key to it. You're probably going to tell me the same. Is that she started posting in her niche and goes, "I'm going to do this for a year, and I'm not going to make a penny out of it." And she posted. Now she's tens of thousands and all this kind of thing, and people are coming to her, and that's great. I think most people aren't prepared to put in a shift for content marketing, are they?
No, they're not. And as you kind of said earlier, a lot of companies want to just throw a load of money at a marketing person and then wait for all the leads to come in. And I think, you know, your wife was very right. I did the same approach, all about giving up front, and what you build then sort of comes back. It's all about value. Give value and do it consistently. And that's marketing done right. What works, especially on LinkedIn, what you find is that the personal brands carry more weight of potential than the company brands. So a lot of companies, they might have a couple of hundred followers on their company page. Then they end up with staff that have thousands of followers, that get thousands of likes on their posts, and it's their individual profiles that are becoming the more valuable thing. And the smarter companies now are investing in their teams to build their personal brands, because it's a much more effective marketing strategy. The reason for that is that people buy from people, and they want that authenticity. They don't want to be sold to by a company. They don't want that generic marketing content going out. They want real stories. They want real insights, real people. They follow people, not companies. Some companies get it right. The companies that do get it right, again, create a valuable, unique offering through their company page. So there's a company in America called Gong. They're a call listening software platform, and they become one of the biggest sales sort of content creators out there because they did data-backed insights. So they share blogs once or twice a month with insights in selling that are backed by data from all of the calls that they analyze. So suddenly you've got these amazing insights that are valuable to the audience. None of it sells their software. It's just educational. And they've built a huge following by creating content that's valuable. They don't just promote their products. They don't just share their testimonials. It's, right, what content do our customers want? Let's create that in a unique way. And it works. So there is all the potential in the company page, but there's certainly a lot of potential in your staff. And for anyone who's listening to this, if you've got a team of people, or if not, look at you as the individual and start to build your personal brand, start to share your stories, your knowledge, your insights, do it in creative ways. And that would be content marketing done right, in my opinion and experience.
Do you know what? That's really, really connected for me, because what I think for people like you and I, we're in niches that are lifetime deep. So it's actually quite easy for us to create content because there's so many different things we can talk about. But you know, if you're a roofer or an electrician and they struggle to come up with content and go, well, here's a roof I did yesterday. Here's tomorrow's roof. It looks a bit the same as the other one, and maybe they'll go, well, this is this kind of roof, and that's that kind of roof, and then they run out of steam, and it's not working. But the connection I've just made there for me, is really, I think that as a person, treating their personal profile like a company profile, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. And what would work best for them is, okay, yeah, do show the roofs that you do, but then show the process, show you doing the roof, show you with your kid, because they come with you to help you do show you at the weekends. You spent all day, all week doing roofs, and now you're spending time with your family. People then buy into that, and that's how you grow an audience and win kind of continuous business. It's because you connect with people on a human level, not just promoting the corporate stuff. And that can be uncomfortable. It's not an easy process for people to make. It's easy to post a picture of your work. I could spend all day talking about, the reviews for training and the book and things like that. But actually, it's more beneficial to share stories and insights and things like that. So it's just, yeah, it's getting comfortable with it. I come from that place of having never created content before. I've not been trained to do it. I've not done any courses. I'm a salesperson. So I know how hard it is to be someone who doesn't create content to become someone who does. But as with anything, learn, practice, master, and repeat. It's a continuous process.
I think it's what lots of people do is because it's called content marketing, they do content, and actually maybe we should call it context, because it's the contextualization that really gets the engagement, isn't it?
Yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah, that's it. Renamed it right now. We can share the IP on that one. We'll go 50-50 on it. Contextualizing it. I think that's the key. So, okay, right. Let's sum up, Daniel. I've really enjoyed the conversation today. I've got two things I want to ask. Firstly, have you got? I know it's probably a stupid question, but there you go. Have you got one or two like super tips that are your best top tips of stuff?
Yeah, okay. So 2 super tips. Number 1 is just start sharing content consistently. We've covered it already in this call, but that is the key to anything. The only reason I'm doing anything that I'm doing now is because at some day I made the choice that I was going to share content consistently. Once you make that choice and you commit to it, I think the world is your oyster. Tip number 2 is just give value, as much value as you can. Jeff, your wife, did a whole year where that's all she gave. That's pretty much exactly what I did. Even if you cut it down, maybe 80% of what you do, the content you share, is valuable. 20% you can then start to promote a bit of what you do. As long as you give more than you take, you'll get it right. So give value and post consistently, and yeah, that's what works. I can't really put it any other way.
Yeah.
But as with anything, just practice it. It's never easy when you start it. The first big step is starting. So why not today? Why not whenever you're listening to this, go and put a post out there. Write or create a post that's valuable to your audience. Try it today. The first step's the hardest. It does get easier after that.
And don't be lazy. Go hire someone to do it for you because they don't understand your business.
Yes, exactly.
So my last question for you is what's the future for you and social selling?
Well, it's a big need. Loads of companies aren't doing it anywhere near the right way. We're closely getting to a place where social selling will become a normal part of sales training. So for me at the moment, it's just continually trying to help as many people as possible. For me, I am just about finished on book number 2, and I'm just in a conversation with a major publisher, which I'm really excited about. So hopefully by the latter part of this year, I will have a second book out, and it's going to be the big one. It's going to be the ultimate guide to LinkedIn, A to Z, for people, salespeople, businesses, how they can leverage it as a sales tool. It was written, just about finished, and yeah.
Can you give us a scoop on what that's called?
The name is being played around with at the moment.
Okay.
So I would love to give you the name, but you get the idea of what it's going to be. I need to, yeah, get the name right for this one. But it's done, and it looks, I'm proud of it. You know, I was proud of writing that as my first book, but this is going to be, my goal is this is the guide that businesses and salespeople use for LinkedIn. So yeah, more of that. I'm looking forward to getting back out and training. It's been great doing virtual training and coaching across the last few months. Got a few bookings coming up around October, November time that will be face-to-face, assuming things are safe to do so when it comes to it. But yeah, I'm excited to get back out traveling and back on stage, back in front of classrooms and, you know, in front of people again. So that's, I don't know what's in store for me at the moment.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today. I've really, really enjoyed having you on. I've got some notes for myself for some improvements from the tips that you've given us. So I really appreciate that. And if anybody is listening, follow Daniel Disney on LinkedIn, check in with the daily sales if you want to get better at selling. And he really is got loads and loads of great information out there. So I recommend that you hook up with that. So thank you all for listening, and I will see you on the next podcast.
See you later.